Welcome to I'll Have You Know, a podcast from Rice Business. This episode is part of our Pivot series, where guests share stories of transformation in their lives and careers. DeRae Crane's life has been filled with the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. The U.S. heavyweight boxing Olympian, U.S. Army veteran, highly accomplished portfolio manager, and Rice Al are just a few of his titles. But those don't come close to scratching the surface of who he truly is. The heavy hitter is never one who settles for anything, as regret is not a word in his vocabulary. Join us now to hear a hero's journey of resilience, perseverance, determination, and focus, and learn what he believes are the key ingredients of a true champion. Hello, everyone. I'm Maya Pomroy and your host of I'll Have You Know. Our guest today is DeRae Crane, professional MBA from the class of 2022. Hey, DeRae, how are you doing today?
I'm incredible. How are you? Maya?
I'm good, but I'm going to be honest here. Making a decision of how to appropriately introduce you was super duper hard for me. So I'm going to try my best to encapsulate a bit of who you are in the introduction. You are first and foremost a Rice Al, so we share that in common. You were raised in Davenport, Iowa by a single father. You're a boxer who started at the age of 9 and have had a really phenomenal and illustrious career. You're an Olympian for Team USA as an elite boxer. You joined the Army in 2008 and are a U.S. Army veteran who served our country in Afghanistan when you volunteered to deploy in 2012, and you also continued your boxing career while in the Army. You finished in second place in the 2016 Olympic boxing team trials with over 300 fights over 20 years. You took some time off. You motorcycled through Southeast Asia, jumped out of a plane for fun. We have that in common too. Got an MBA, are currently a portfolio manager at BP, a fun day job. Kind of seems like it's on the side. And most recently, you came out of retirement to make another Olympic run in 2024. And one of the most important jobs that you have is you're a dad.
Yes.
So I don't even know if that did you justice, but I don't even know, where do we begin? So as I was sitting here reading about you, I was like, I think we're just going to start from the beginning. Tell me about your childhood growing up in Davenport, Iowa. How did you find boxing, or did boxing find you?
Great place to start. Davenport, Iowa. Have you ever been?
I have not, but should I go?
What about to Iowa?
I have never been to Iowa. Tell me about
Iowa. It's a wholesome place, right? Salt of the earth. The people there are wonderful human beings, peaceful place. So the peace is what brought my father there from the south side of Chicago. He grew up, in a rough neighborhood, gang affiliated, got himself into a bunch of trouble. I was like, I got to get out of here before I end up dead. So at 21 years old, he moved to Iowa because he liked it. It was peaceful and a huge contrast from what he was used to. And to this day, and he's been in Iowa for 50 years now. When I mentioned Chicago, he just, he kind of shudders a little bit just because of, those were his formative years, and the experiences that he had there just really had an impact on him that were negative. But when I think of Chicago, I'm like, man, Trump Tower and the Riverwalk and all these wonderful, beautiful places to eat and all the scenery. So our experience are just much different. So first generation to be raised in Iowa, Davenport, Iowa. And I'm thankful for it because the boxing gym was 7 blocks from my house. Okay. So I still grew up poor, just because it was peaceful didn't mean we grew up any better off. My father was a high school dropout, but he did his best. He raised me and my brother by himself, and he was really committed. He was a committed father. And at no point in my life did I ever not feel loved. Like, I always felt loved in abundance. I always felt close to my father. Even to this day, we talk every single day.
I love that. Every single day.
Every single day, and sometimes multiple times a day. And fortunately, like I said, the boxing gym was 7 blocks from my house. So it was easy. One, it was inexpensive. So I need, some sneakers, some shorts, a mouthpiece, and I can box. It's a poor man's sport, but it gave me something to do, for me and my brother to do after school, keep us out of trouble. So that's when my father took us there at 8 and 9 years old until he got off work, just to keep us occupied, build a martial art skill to where we could defend ourselves.
Did he have a background in martial arts or in boxing?
He boxed a little bit, but it was just, kind of around the way. He grew up in a time where I just watched the Bike Riders movie this weekend. And at the end, I'm not going to ruin it, but, they asked, fist or knives. And my father grew up in that time, right? Whereas like we have a disagreement, we're going to settle it, as two people in a civil manner with our fists, no weapons, everyone goes home. That's the time my father grew up in. So it was it's different than a lot of the things that you hear today. But he knew the importance of, being able to defend yourself. He didn't fully appreciate the depth because I think of boxing as I think it scientific almost. So it's not something where I'm like, tough and I'm upset and I'm mad. No, it's a science. So it's physics. That's
Definitely physics.
right.
So that's like a body in motion remains in motion
There you
until,
go.
acted upon by
Yeah.
an outside
Yes.
force. Yeah, I didn't do well in physics, but I do remember that.
All right, so I see boxing that way, or I've done it for so long that I had to begin to see it that way as I got older and I started slowing down and I wasn't running on sugar anymore. So I have to outthink my opponent. I can't match them with strength
It's
or speed
strategy.
necessarily. Yes, I can out strategize them. I've had life experiences that I can take them out deep and kind of sink them mentally. So why I was so ambitious is just because I grew up so poor. I didn't want to be poor anymore, and boxing was my way out. And it exposed me to different things in the world. Like it was the first time I got to leave Iowa. We would drive to these tournaments, these competitions. Like Kansas City was the first like time me really, or maybe it was Chicago and then Kansas City, and I'm like, oh, I'm traveling. A 10-year-old kid. So for the first year, we'd travel around Iowa, and then you start getting better. You're qualifying for regionals, and you're moving on to nationals. I won my first national title at 11 years old, and I was hooked. Mike Tyson says, "Success begets success." Absolutely, because once you experience that, you're like, okay, I want to do this again.
Yeah, it's a fire. It's a fire that lights you up, right?
Fire was lit. I held on to boxing, and I did not let go. Held on to it tight, like tighter than a lot of my relationships, my friendships, because it was the thing that was the most rewarding, the most fulfilling. It was like I could go put the work in and get the results back, get the benefits back, and it kept me out of trouble. So that's always good. Kept me focused and disciplined. I didn't have much free time.
Well, and also, it is a sport just like any other sport. But, I think that if people knew, like, that kid could knock you out, so probably shouldn't mess with him. It's different than being like a tennis player, you know. I mean, it definitely gives you some clout of, yeah, I should probably be on my P's and Q's with DeRae because he could literally knock
Yeah,
me down.
that's certainly as you come into just speaking genuinely and authentically into your manhood. It's one of those things where it's like, I think that's something a man should be able to do. It's just very honest, very like primal even, but in a sense that it's like at our most basic, like should be able to, move around a little bit if I need to.
Human nature.
Yeah, and I would never harm anyone. That's
No,
not that's
no.
not what folks like. Once you get to a certain level, you don't even think in those terms really. But you do, you are looking around the room and just seeing what you would need to do to get out of there. And that's probably some of the military background as well that is kind of mixed in there.
So let's talk about that. So boxing was really your ticket to college. You got a full scholarship for boxing. So, and you had some really incredible mentors that helped lead you on that path. So tell me about your time in school. You went to Northern Michigan University for boxing, home to the United States Olympic Education Center.
Yes. As I started thinking, I have an article from February of 2000. I was 14 years old. I hadn't turned 15 yet. And, I made the goal. I want to go to college, right? I want to be an Olympic boxer. And I'm looking around me. I'm like, well, how do I get there? What do I need to do? What do I have available to me? Right? I'm thinking, thinking, thinking. And we used to get this quarterly magazine from USA Boxing that had all the rankings in it and like articles and about certain athletes and like their stories. And I was like, okay, well, there's Al Mitchell and Northern Michigan University, NMU, and like the top 10 guys, there are three guys from NMU, like every weight class. I'm like, well, that's where I need to go. That's where I need to be. And in 2000, I think they put 3 or 4 guys on that Olympic team.
So tell me about Al Mitchell. Tell me about your coach.
I was trying to think about when I first saw Al Mitchell, and it was at the 2000 National Junior Olympics. They were in Marquette, Michigan. I saw Al working someone else's corner. That's like the only time I ever saw Al. And I was in my ring doing my thing, competing. And I think I made it. I made it to the medal round. So I placed third, got a bronze medal at that tournament. But I never spoke to Al, right? As a 15-year-old kid, I did not speak to him, didn't walk up to him. And there was some action going on in my ring. And I was standing in a neutral corner as, the ref was counting on my guy. So I was looking. He was like, what's going on over here? But never spoke to him. And it wouldn't be until I graduated in '03 and I had applied to NMU, gotten in. I think I applied to like NMU, Iowa State, and an HBCU in Missouri that no longer exist. And I got in, did a little dance in my dining room because, hey, I'm going to college, but I have no idea how I'm going to pay.
What'd your dad say?
He was like, oh, that's cool. That's wonderful. I'm proud of you, son. He doesn't, you know,
he
he
was he
doesn't,
was cool as a cucumber. He's like, okay, cool.
yeah, right, right. He's like, okay. And I had gotten pretty good grades in school. And it's not like we ever had any conversations about what's a career look like. It's like my father's just worked a bunch of odd jobs over his life and hadn't really built much of a career, or done a whole lot of traveling or seen a whole lot of the world. He just was, focused on raising his boys and doing the best he could with what he had. And at the time, I had my godmother was really active in my life and really supportive of things that I wanted to do. So she, had a government job, retired from the government. She kind of understood what that trajectory looked like and then the importance of education. She was very supportive, gifted me a 1999 Toyota Corolla. We
Nice.
packed it up, and she was just proud of me for coming from where I was coming from, knowing, the ins and outs of everything that we had been through as a family, and was just very supportive. So thankful for her. They dropped me off, they took off. I'm sitting in my dorm room like, I don't know how this is going to go.
I don't think that's you. I think that's everybody that goes to college. You're just kind of sitting there and you're like, now what?
Well, not even now what? It's like, well, I need to figure out how to pay for this stuff. I don't think I'd ever heard of FAFSA or knew anything about loans or, yeah, I mean, this was 2003. So, times were a little different and information wasn't so easily available, I think. We were still using like MapQuest, we were still like printing off directions.
Yes. I was talking to another friend about MapQuest the other day. That's funny that you brought that up. I was like, I don't know. Our kids are so so fortunate. They could just put it in their phone and it'll just tell you where to go. We're over here with like MapQuest trying to and like taking off the printer paper, the little side perforated pieces that you needed to print
Yeah,
out.
I left the directions in my glove box, like back and forth between Marquette, Michigan, and Davenport, Iowa. And then I was dating a woman in Cedar Falls, Iowa at the time. So had those directions in there as well. So that like the following day after my godmother and father left, I went and talked to Al and we chatted. First conversation, and Al is amazing. He is because he's seen so many DeRays, so many young men with potential. He's seen so many, so he's always open to sit and talk and chat and just see where you're at, right? He has really good discernment. He knows like kind of who's who by talking to you, right? He can size you up. He's from North Philadelphia. A self-proclaimed, he worked for the mob at some point in time. He's kind of a gangster dude, you know, who has those instincts. He's not a big guy, but he's a smart guy. He's just a caring and loving guy in his own way. He never takes anything personal. He's never malicious when he speaks. So we chatted for a little bit, and he said, "Come back the next day with all your gear, your headgear, your protective cup, some gloves, your mouthpiece, and I'll get a look at you." And because there was a young man training there that was also like trying to do what I was doing, trying to do like walk onto the team. So he was already there. I mean, he had about 40 pounds on me. So we next day I show up. I mean, this is after a night of tossing and turning. I don't know that I slept. This is my moment
Some
to like,
pressure.
yeah, if this goes well, I can see like life getting good because it just never stops. And then if it goes bad, though, I guess I'm going home kind of situation, or I'm gonna have to take out a bunch of loans.
Yeah.
So show up the next day. We do like 3 rounds. I hold my own. Al says, you know what, come back the following day. You need to, there's the bureaucracy. He's got to run it through the chain. And I didn't understand that at the time. So come back the next day and he offers me a full scholarship.
Wow. What did that feel
Yes.
like?
A huge relief. I can make something of this. Like I'm making something from nothing. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing it with my two hands. Basically what I'm doing, and the meat between my ears
Mm.
and the willingness to take a risk, right? Because I'm 8 hours from home. Who does that? Yeah, I've always been willing to step out, and you have to, and you're going to get scuffed up, and then you learn that that's okay.
Mm. Well, you need that kind of resilience and mental toughness, and that's what sets you apart. So you made the team, right?
Made the team as a walk on.
That's amazing.
Yeah, wasn't recruited. Everyone else, basically, everyone else had been recruited, previously, and I'm just some guy from Iowa. I remember Al saying, you're very green, but you're tough.
Well, but malleable, right? Like that's the
Yeah, yeah.
that's great. You got a blank slate. What were you studying?
Marketing.
Ah.
I chose marketing, and I didn't change. I wasn't those people who changed their major. I got to leave here with something. Well, Denzel had that. I'm leaving here with something.
Yeah. So you graduated with a marketing degree and
well, I did, but let's just that second year, I was a team captain
Hmm?
because after that first year, right, walking on, getting beat up every day, we had a national tournament in like May of '04, and that's after like winter break. I want to quit. Yeah, I wanted to quit. It was just too tough. You're waking up at 5 a.m., rain, sleet, or snow. You're running, you're training, you're doing all the strength conditioning, and then you got to get to class, and it was just hard, cold, lonely. There's not a ton of diversity there. Your teammates are all they all kind of know each other
Yeah.
because they run in the same circles, being that they're all like top 10 ranked guys, and then I'm just the guy from Iowa. Walked on, doesn't go out. I don't hang out. I'm in my room. I'm studying. I'm getting to class. I'm doing all the things
Should be
I
doing.
think this is what we should be doing,
Yeah.
guys. So maybe a bit of an outsider.
And you became the
Um,
captain? How'd that go?
yes. So it's just the performance piece, right? Who can deliver? So we had a national tournament in 2004, and I was the only one that won live on NBC by first round knockout. So given that, just I was doing all the things, I was modeling all the behaviors the coaches wanted to see, down to winning. And I was named team captain that second year, and of course, it went well. I can do all the things. You can't do anything but respect it.
That's right. You
Yeah,
earn that respect.
there you go.
Yeah.
That's right.
So second year team captain, and then what drove you to think, you know what? I'm going to go to the Olympics and I'm going to be on the Olympic team.
That's what we're there for, right? We're there to be Olympians. And I told you, like NMU had 4 of the 12 Olympians in 2000, so it had like a history of elite guys. But as I started learning more and understanding more, there's a huge trade-off that takes place. Dave Reed won the Olympic gold medal in '96. He was a world champion as a professional, but breaks my heart. He didn't graduate high school, so he's on the other side of the spectrum, right? He wins the gold medal, like it's one of the, I don't know, one of the most amazing Olympic moments in history. And you can go and check this out on YouTube. Dave Reed winning the gold medal. He's down, he's losing, but he knocks the Cuban out, stops him, wins the gold medal. Amazing. It's like I wanted that. That was when my Olympic dream was born, actually, in 1996, watching David Reed win the gold medal. And then he was trained by Al Mitchell.
Ha.
Dave Reed ended up training me for the tournament I won in 2004.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's like we all were getting like connected. It was really cool. So, after 2004, I was like, man, I really do this. But there's a trade off. So it's like, I still want to graduate though.
mm.
I still want to get the grades. And it was just hard. You're traveling, you're missing a ton of school because you're always, Team USA had you all over the place.
How did you manage that?
Barely. Barely. That's what I tell people when they ask me how I did it or how I managed it. It barely, and you have to accept that barely is okay.
It's good enough.
Yeah, that's good enough. That's good enough. I can barely do this. I'm barely holding on, and sometimes all you can do is hang in there. All the blood, sweat, and tears and sacrifice, which is like if I sacrifice, and because every like media piece about any fighter is like, oh, the sacrifice, the hard work, the dedication. They always show that part. They never show all the dumpster fires behind the scenes. You never learn that until like they're in the Hall of Fame, and they're coming back to talk about it. They're trying to package it nice and neat, and they're trying to sell it. Everyone loves that story. They don't want to hear about you know all the garbage that's happening behind the scenes
But
necessarily.
the garbage is what you need in order to get to where you need to be, like to
Yeah.
rise, right? Like if you don't have
But
any of that, you're not going to get to where you're supposed to go. It's part of
I
that
hate it.
character building.
I hate it because you have young people who only see the nice, neat packaged thing. So they are ill prepared for all the junk that comes along with it.
With anything in
So
life, yeah.
with anything in life, it's like, hey, let's have a little more honesty here. Okay, I just barely did that. Like, let's really, I didn't succeed or achieve this thing because I'm so great. All right, here are all the variables that I built that on. All right, here's everything that happened. Here's the people that were in my reference group. Here's people that were in my sphere of influence. This is why I was able to do this. It's not because I'm absolutely amazing. It's like I kind of got a little lucky. I need a little luck in there.
After those Olympic trials where you did not, you didn't have the result that you wanted, and you had to deal with mental health,
Yep.
depression, and tell me about how you navigated that, because that was probably something that was new for you.
So new. I knew that I would be okay. How about that? So I started there, and I would just take it day by day. I think I ballooned up to like over 200 pounds. And I boxed at 178 at the time. So I was like the biggest, the heaviest I'd ever been. And I remember putting aluminum foil on my windows because it really helps keep all the light out. And I would just drag myself to class. I was like, I just have to hang in there. And I also had Al who, he sat down and talked to me, and I could just always tell Al cared about me, and he would always check in on me. And also my teammates and my father, my godmother, like there was a tribe of people, a small tribe of folks around me that helped me get through that. But most importantly was my son's mother. I met her in a class. So that's my senior year, and I was a fifth year senior. I dropped a class my freshman year, a health class. It was like a half a credit course because it was too early, and I had to
It
take it
was
to
too early in
graduate.
the morning.
It was too early in the morning. It was an 8 o'clock class, and I'm like up at 5 trying to get my morning workout in. I have to go swim. I think it was a swimming class I dropped,
Ah,
and there was my son's mother who was like a ray of sunshine
mm.
and just the most positive and loving, caring, and kind human being that I to this day that I've ever met. When she was familiar with that there was a boxing team on campus, and then 8 months later we were pregnant. So it went well, and she was, like I said, a ray of sunshine in my life, and helped me really get over that dark spot.
Yeah. And then you decided to join the military, the army.
I did. I did decide and thought long and hard about it. No one that I know in my family had ever served, and
Why
now
did
that I
you
had
want to do that?
there are a couple of reasons. And it involves part of it involves the legacy. And I'm going to be a father, and I'm thinking, well, and I've always been like a long term thinker. I think that kind of comes through in like my willingness to take the risk. It's like, well, there's a bit of a gap, but the only way that I can bridge that gap is like I got to step out, and I'm gonna get scuffed up along the way, but I think I'll be okay. Like as long as I'm in one piece and I keep moving forward. Sometimes I may have to take a knee. I'll get back up and keep moving forward. So I had a son on the way. No one in my family had served. I wasn't ready to work in a cubicle. And the Army also has what's called the World Class Athlete Program, WCAP. So that's probably the second best team in the country at the time. Yeah. They would may argue that they were the first best team. I had a couple of losses against one of their athletes, Christopher Downs, who ended up being my coach, last year for some of my competitions. So it was really great to connect with him on that. So WCAP gave me the opportunity to continue to pursue my Olympic dream
Mm.
and also do some really cool things as I'm thinking about becoming an Army officer and kind of understanding what that track looks like. So I was excited about it.
What made you explore that option?
Bashir Abdullah was the head coach of the Army's World Class Athlete Program. Al Mitchell was like, the OG, where USA Boxing would send all the elite coaches to Al for mentorship. And Bashir and Al got really close. Their coaching styles are very similar. And Al got wind of it. Actually, it was Ron Sims who introduced me to the idea, the thought, the concept of even joining the military. So, I guess I have to backtrack just a little bit. Ronald Sims, who was the Marine coach at the time, the Marines also have a boxing team. He reached out to me on Facebook, said, "Hey, you want to come box for the Marines? I know you're getting ready to graduate. What's your plan? What you going to do? Do you still want to box?" Honestly, I wasn't sure that I still wanted to box. And I'd gone with Al to some different professional camps, considering like, do I want to turn professional? Once again, I'm thinking long term. I'm like, okay, what does the life look like of a professional boxer? It is hard. Okay, what does the business side look like? Right, I just graduated with a business degree. I know enough to know like sustainably, this isn't necessarily the best decision. This is really a coin flip, and it takes so much out of you that at the end of the day, you may not have any like real skills to go out in the world and do some things. And you are going to pay the price because your body's going to be so beat up, not
Mm.
just your body, but your brain.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Because it professional boxing is much different than Olympic style boxing, just the safety precautions, the measures they take to keep the athletes safe.
Well, there's a lot
Professional
of head
boxing,
injuries, just like in football.
I mean, they're less head injuries, but I think over a long career, like
They add
you
up.
are going to pay a price. Yeah, they add up, right? If a drop of water hits the concrete enough times, it's going to make a hole.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to go that route, and I didn't necessarily care. I was like, I think I can make money doing other things. I don't need to be a professional fighter. That's really a hard way to make a living. I do want to be an Olympian still, though. I love that. I love the sound of that.
Well, that's what you wanted to do since you were young, that was your dream.
Let's do that. Let's choose. I don't want to be in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where the Marines are. So sorry, I'm not going to do that. But hey, Al, Coach Bashir Abdullah trains the WCAP team. What do you think about that? So he, connects with him and says, "All right, this is what it looks like. This is what you need to do." I said, "All right, well, let's take that first step." Yeah. So that's how I ended up joining the military, and I thank Ron Sims, who would later become my coach again here in Houston, for kind of planting that seed or even that idea, because I think at the time I just I wasn't certain. I just knew I didn't want to work in a cubicle.
I don't think anybody sets out to work in a
Right.
cubicle.
Right. Well,
Everybody's like,
I had done an internship at this really awesome packaging company, and it kind of exposed me to the world of like those businesses you don't think about, like those boring businesses you don't think about, but make money hand over fist.
uh-huh.
But I still knew I didn't want to do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
I was like, this is very interesting. This is cool, but I still have, I'm still running on sugar a little bit.
You joined the army and then you deployed to Afghanistan in 2012.
Yes, 2012. So I was going through the training pipeline and trying to make the 2012 team. And it was kind of rushed. I didn't have enough time to get on ground, get back to training, get in shape. There's different shapes out there. And yes, I was in, army shape or military shape, but boxing shape is totally different.
Yeah.
So just didn't have enough time. Fell short of making that team or even qualifying. I don't even think I qualified for the trials that year, but it's like every quad, they do it differently, how they choose the team. So you kind of got to do the dance.
So after 2008 and sort of that disappointment, did that trickle into 2012? Was that something that you were
I think I have such a poor memory that I'd forgotten about
That's
by then.
good. That's good.
Yeah.
It's like, sorry, I
Yeah.
don't remember that. I just kept on going. You just keep on trucking.
Yeah. Because it's like, it didn't make sense. I've never, like, my whole makeup, I don't hold on to things. Al is one of those people that does not hold grudges. And
Good
that rubbed
lesson.
off on me. Like, right. He's my mentor. It's like, if it's negative, I don't really hold on to it. If I learned a lesson, sure. But even if it was like negative and it hurt and like I bled and I cried, well, I'm gonna review it. I'm gonna turn this thing all the way around, look at it, take the lesson from it,
And drop it.
and yeah, and let it go. I won't do that again, or I'll do that a little differently.
That's great advice. How many tours did you do?
Just one,
One.
2012, 13. And then basically when I got off the plane from Afghanistan, I got right back in the gym.
Yeah, you
To try to,
you won the 2014 National Golden Gloves and the Golden
yeah,
Boy Award while
I
you
did.
were in the military. So,
Yeah,
yeah, you were still thinking about boxing that whole time.
absolutely. I wasn't training during my deployment really, but I knew, right? I looked at who was out there, who my competition was for 2016. I knew I fell a little short for 2012, but I raised my hand to go to Afghanistan, and during the training pipeline, basic training, OCS, your basic course, you get really close with the people in your class, your peers, and you guys stay in touch. You know, you become friends on Facebook, and you see what's going on in each other's lives and who's going down range, and you see who's not coming home.
Mm.
And that just every time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you
it's very
volunteered to
upsetting.
go. You
It's very
volunteered.
upsetting. Yes, yes, because I want to get in the fight. Right? It's like they went, I'm going, and that's all it is. Because that's why you want to go. You want to go for your buddies. You don't go for any other reason.
Mm. So you were there and then you came back.
Came back, got off the plane. I bought a house, and I got back into the gym. I was focused on the 2014 National Golden Gloves,
And your
and that
son
was
as well.
well. Yes, he greeted me like he was there. He was by my side the whole time, and we had talked on Skype. Skype was a thing back then. But I had bought a house while I was in Afghanistan. My son's mother helped me buy that house. I bought it for my son. We got him a dog.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we were focused back on boxing and just catching up with my 3-year-old son at the time. And I remember my son's mother and I were not together before I went. But before I went, we took a family photo, just us three. Like we had a photo shoot because I was like, if I don't come home, I want my son to see us
Ugh.
together, happy and smiling. You know,
Making those
and
types
that's
of decisions, I can't even fathom, you know?
right. I think back to it and I'm like, how many people have that thought? Like maybe this is my last time on an airplane. This is a one way trip, maybe.
Yeah.
And then just think like there are 100, 200 of us on this plane, and we probably are all thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's how you become so close, because like the person on my left and my right, and on my six, those are my people.
Your brothers
Uh,
and sisters.
yes, and to think that, and that's what brings veterans so close together is like we all had to think those thoughts,
Yeah.
and a lot of other folks haven't necessarily, and you can start to tell like the differences between kind of who's had those thoughts and who gets worked up about the silliest of things. Yeah.
Puts things into perspective for sure.
Yes, in a big way.
And so when you come back, how was it adjusting back to civilian life? Was there sort of this process, or were you like, you know what, I'm back, I'm not going to think about it like the way that you've been, up until this point of like leaving
No,
that there and I'm moving on over here and this is now
no.
my focus? Or was there a time of transition for you?
I was aware. I became more aware that I am different now.
Yeah.
Okay. Like there is no way to go downrange and come back the same. So I was aware of it, and I would catch myself getting upset about certain things, you know, that's bothering someone else, but it wouldn't bother me because the way I see the world and how broad my purview is now. So yeah, that's a journey, and I'm still on that journey today. As I try to give people grace. So yeah, I mean, you just become more aware.
Hmm. So you came back and then you're like, you know what? We're gonna make a run for the Olympics again because
Oh yeah,
that's
absolutely, absolutely. I saw who was there. All right, I was like, I can beat that guy. Before I left, I
I
was like,
can beat that guy.
I can beat all these guys. I was like, I can beat all these guys. And there was only one guy that I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I can beat him. And
Can't
that's the
think
guy
that
who beat me.
way. Can't think that you're gonna beat him, right?
Well, I like being aware, understanding like where my gaps are. Saying, hey, I struggle with this style. Right? It's not necessarily like, he's better than me. It's just that style is like really it frustrates me.
Mm.
And I would have to work really hard. It's like the difference between getting a C and a B is a lot easier. Closing that gap, much easier than the B
And
to
an
A.
A, yeah.
All right. So like I can get to B plus, but it would take so much work for me to get to that A.
A minus.
A minus. Okay. We're gonna do the best we can. That's what we're gonna do. I'm not gonna cut any corners. I'm not gonna take any shortcuts. And I had a good run. 2016 was a really good run. When I got back from Afghanistan, it was a good run. I had a couple of surgeries on each shoulder, so I had to like recover. My coach calls it getting long in the tooth. So I'm getting old, and I have a lot of miles on this body. Hasn't been gently used.
So you had surgeries and then you came back.
Yes, Came back. Yep. Still, I was not discouraged. Any of those surgeries, 3 surgeries. I was like, I'm still gonna do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is still gonna happen, because my job was just to focus on recovery, get back to competing. And I was focused. I was like, I'm in my prime and I may never get this opportunity again. Especially after all I had been through in Afghanistan. It's like, well, none of my competitors, none of the people I compete against have done this, have done the things I've done and seen the things I've seen. So
Different perspective.
yeah, yeah, let's do this.
So you did it.
Well, yes, I made it to the finals. I was the alternate in 2016. And, if Cam had just stayed at super heavyweight, I would have gone to the Olympics that year. But he came down. He came down from super heavyweight. We could have gone and won a couple of medals for Team USA. I give him a hard time about that to this day. But for whatever reason, he just felt like he'd be at his best at a lower weight class.
So going back to Rice and coming back to Houston, and you're a couple of years out of from the 2016 trials, and then what made you decide to pursue an MBA? I mean, it seems like you're rocking and rolling, and everything's going well, and you're like, you know what? I kind of need an MBA. I mean, I'm curious about what that thought process was.
Okay. So 2016 falls short. I'm done with boxing. Like I don't touch boxing anymore after sometime in December of 2015 when those trials are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't walk back into a boxing gym
Until,
or
but
throw
we'll get
another
to that.
yes, or throw another punch. So I totally put boxing on the shelf.
Yeah.
And then I go and do all the things I want to do, right? Backpack across Southeast Asia, take all the motorcycle trips I want to take, just start jumping out.
Where'd you go in Southeast?
I went through the South Pacific. So I started in Australia, popped up to like Indonesia, and then Cambodia, Philippines, Thailand. Was supposed to go to Laos, but didn't realize I need to get a visa.
Yeah, I need a visa.
Yeah, so I got stuck in Manila for a couple more days, and I went back to Indonesia for a little bit. So yeah, I like half of the countries in Southeast Asia.
So how long was that voyage? You just got on a motorcycle and you just like
No,
traveled?
I motorcycled around the U.S.
Okay.
The backpacking across Southeast Asia was just like a 3-month thing, just a 3-month thing because I had time. I had time, and I had put so much into my career and investment properties where I had I had a little bit of a cushion, and I knew that I needed to just reset. I'm not one of those people who has to swing from one thing to the next. No, I'm going to take my time,
So you were
and
doing
I'm going to
investment. You were doing investment property work, right?
yeah.
That's what it led
I was
you.
always like kind of thinking, all right, I want to head that way. It made sense, especially as just kind of a regular person, and I had access to some different entitlements that would allow me to do that. Being a veteran. So I'm still in Colorado Springs at the time, and I know I want to move. And I want to be where my son was until at least he started school. So we were all together in Colorado Springs. I live like right around the corner from his mom and daycare. And like it's, very much Brady Bunch. We're just all involved in my son's life in a very positive way. But I know that I'm going to move because I want exposure to diversity. So I choose Houston. Could have gone anywhere in the world. I need to be able to get to my son in like 2 hours in a flight, or need to be able to put him on an unaccompanied minor flight. So Houston was relatively low cost of living, no cold or snow events. I'm not a fan of the cold or snow. I like to be outside.
Not being
golfing.
from Iowa, no.
And spending 6 years in Marquette, Michigan.
That too. Yeah.
Booming economy, right? Ton of opportunity, easy to get in and out of. Just a great city, and it's gritty, right? It's a working man city.
Yeah.
I just love that about it. I'd come to visit a couple times. Actually, the 2008 Olympic team trials were at the George R. Brown Convention
I know. I remember that.
Yes. So, had my heart broken here, but for all those reasons I just mentioned, it just was the perfect place for me to be.
That's amazing that you actually chose Houston, and that was where you were the lowest of the low. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to go back to Houston and I'm going to make it the highest of the high.
Yeah. Yeah. Houston's given me everything that I wanted. Right. It's run the full spectrum. So what's that? That's 2017. Moved to Houston. No job, but I do have some friends here. So it wasn't for a career move. A friend of mine was in real estate investing down here. Probably spent 6 to 8 months showing me kind of the market and how resilient the Katy market was, and I was just getting an idea.
Katy was booming.
Right? Yes. Yes. And then I moved into the city because I was like, I'm not moving to Houston to live in name one of the many suburbs, right? I'm like,
Suburban
I'm
life is
moving.
not for you.
I'm moving to Houston to live in the city, right? To have exposure to all the diversity and all the things there are to do here. BP comes calling because I had applied to all the energy majors
Mhm.
and got accepted to their military placement program. Started on their NGL's bench, scheduling rail cars, trucks, pipelines. Working on other various projects. So it was like my introduction to energy, and I had a logistics background, so it all kind of made sense. I had never worked for a corporation before. I leveraged that experience to go into our advocacy arm for a few years. So I started that role in August of 2019, and then March we all go home.
March of 2020.
We're working from home. I'd always want to go to a good school. Okay, so this is where like business school, we got a little extra time on our hands.
And you started thinking about it.
Yes. So like I built a home gym. I had like a 1-car garage. Bought a Peloton and a rower. I've been kind of staying in shape, but not any like, I have all these injuries. And what I learned is like once I started working out again, the injuries started kind of going away. So it's like,
Mm.
movement is the best lubricant or the best medicine. And then I started feeling like, kind of like how I felt when I was competing. So I still hadn't made a decision if I was going to box again, but I knew like I want to employ my time. So I think business school, this might be a good time to go to business school during COVID.
Yeah. I thought the
Yeah.
same. I was there at the same time you
Okay.
were.
Okay. All right. So it's like, well, let's do this. Applied, got in and did another little dance.
Call your dad?
Told my dad, told all my friends. And I'd always want to go to a really good school. And I wanted to stay in Houston.
Houston,
I
yes.
did not want to leave Houston. Could have gone out west, could have gone up east.
Why? You got everything you need right here.
Everything I need here in Houston, right? I want to be rooted in Houston. I've lived in a handful of places since leaving Iowa in 2003. And I was like, I'm tired. I want to be somewhere and rooted there. I want to be a part of the community. And Rice also gives me an opportunity to do that.
So you come to Rice, we're all wearing masks. It was fun. We get COVID tested every week so we could be on
There was
campus.
all that. There was all that. I
Yeah.
think my first year though, we were remote, the majority of it. It was the second year or maybe towards the end of the first year that we started going to campus. And I loved it. Okay. Some people complained about it, but I was like, these professors are doing a really good job.
Phenomenal job.
That format, like really, like it was top tier stuff. And I just loved it. And my classmates, right? A lot of people, speak badly about business school and MBAs. And I'm like, I mean, you guys don't fully understand what like the value proposition of it.
Yes.
And half of it is like what you learn. The other half is like the people and the
that you
events
meet,
you get.
the connections that you make.
That's the relationships that you build out and you have access to that institution forever.
Yeah.
That's worth it to me.
I just feel that the way that the university handled everything beautifully, talk about having to learn how to pivot and how to be resilient yourself. I mean, both of us going in when we did in 2020, I mean, nobody knew what was going to happen. It's sort of that uncertainty, I think, that the people that decided to go during that time sort of thrive on the uncertainty.
Yes. Yeah. And it gave you an opportunity to engage with others as well, right? It's like a lot of folks are isolated. Well, I mean, not us. We were
all connected. I mean, it is. It's kind of crazy to think about because when everybody was completely separated and social distancing and everything else, that was an opportunity to make the deepest, closest, most fulfilling friendships and relationships that you could. Who would have thought?
Yeah. Yeah. They're definitely up there. I recommend people go to Rice. There are some folks that are attending right now off of my recommendation and how highly I spoke of just the entire experience, right? It's not just going to business school. It's not just Rice. It's just like everything that you learn, how challenging it is. Like I tell people, it's not the NBA. I don't want just a thing, or I don't want to just be the Olympian, right? It's the process. It's everything it took me to become that thing. That's where all the value is for me.
Yeah.
Right? It's like from start to finish, or however far I made it. Like I didn't lose. You didn't. My last Olympic run, like there was no losing.
Right.
There, it was all upside. There was all upside. As long as I was healthy and in one piece.
So tell me about these dreams that are continuing to come true. So you got back into boxing and this is not a judgment, but you were one of the oldest at the trials. So you built a gym, you went to business school, and you're
Yeah.
like, you know what? I'm feeling good. I'm feeling strong. I'm going to do this again.
Yes, and I'm basically an executive at one of the oil
A
super majors.
VP.
And
Yeah.
like, what do you like? Why do you need to do this? And it's always been in the back of my mind. It's always been back there, and you let the subconscious work on stuff. So there's plenty of science out there. If you have a problem set, well, just set it to the side. And I did it for like 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Just it's still back there. I'm still just letting my subconscious work on it, and my head is on a swivel. I'm looking for the time when I need to execute, when I need to start moving on this objective. So the stars were aligning, Maya. Coach Ron Sims, who introduced me to the idea of joining the military in the first place, was here in Houston.
Huh.
All right, let's go talk to him. Let's go see where he's training at. He happens to be training at a really wonderful gym in Fifth Ward. I show up one day sometime in November of 2022 and we chat, and he looks at me and he's like, "You're serious, huh?"
Yes, I am, sir.
Yes, because I had a game plan, right? I had already like backwards planned, like this is kind of the approach that we're going to take. Here are the course of action. Here are the gates. But he was on board, from day one. So, all right, got that squared away. My training schedule, I am 38 years old now. I probably do not need to train 6 times a week in the boxing gym, maybe 3 times a week. So I'll go Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Awesome. All right, what tournaments do I need to go to? How many tournaments do I have in me? How many fights do I have in me? All right, because I'm running on fumes, and I have to strategize heavily. These young guys are running on sugar.
And you gave up sugar. Sugar's done.
Right. So these are things that I have to consider, but I still thought like, okay, I can actually do this. I can do this. I can get this done. There may be one or two guys that I'm going to struggle with, but I think between me and Ron and all the other wonderful coaches that I have access to, we can figure it out. So yeah, we started on that path. And then I think June of 2023, I was back in the ring after 7.5 years. I'm going to get qualified for the 2024 Olympic team trials, which took place in December 2023. I placed third.
Awesome.
I placed third at the Olympic team trials. I lost to a southpaw, and my last 4 losses have been to softballs.
Those lefties, huh?
Those lefties. I struggle with tall, rangy lefties.
Everybody in my house is a lefty except for me, by the way. My husband and my daughters they're all southpaws.
So the last time I lost to somebody that was right-handed, it's like 2012.
Southpaws. But third out of how many?
Third out of, I don't know, hundreds,
Wow.
because you have to qualify. You have to go to the qualifier to qualify. And there are already like all these other qualification tournaments taking place. But I knew that, I had a path. I knew that I trusted my coaching. I trusted my abilities. And I was only concerned mostly with staying healthy.
Yeah.
That is it. Like, if I train 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, I'm recovering for 2 hours. So I'm spending, 6 hours training or focused on training every day. So everything's like very regimented. I made a post recently about how attending business school in the evenings helped me with that.
Yes.
You have to automate as much as you can. You have to be on schedule and keep everything nice and tight. And it's not indefinite, right? It's going to end.
Yeah.
Just like business school, at some point, like that first year I call it a bloodbath.
Hard. What do you?
You're being humbled left and right,
For sure.
Yeah.
That's the thread that runs throughout your life. You do the hard stuff. You jump into the bloodbath, full bore.
Yes. And that's rewarding. And I knew that I had to do this, right? Because 40 is the age cutoff. So like, this is my last opportunity. I probably, physically, my body won't, even if boxing was in the Olympics or is in the Olympics in 2028, I don't know that physically I could compete. I know I still had just a little bit of juice left.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, I think this is a worthy cause to use it on.
Right. So what's next for you?
People keep asking me that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm going to ask you that too. Cause I'm just really excited and curious.
Think about that. I'm like, haven't I done enough? One of the ancient,
no, the answer is no.
One of the ancient philosophers says that, a wise man knows when he's had enough. I think family is very important. So that's quite an adventure. I'm not sure how many children you have, or if you, do have a team full of children, running around your home?
No, only two. I
Uh,
got two, but that's enough.
okay.
I'm good with two. I got dogs and I've got kids. I'm
Oh
good.
yeah, dogs are wow. Those are yeah. They need more attention than children.
Some
And
of them for sure.
yeah, so I do have other interests, and if you look at my resume for the last 15 years, like every 2 to 3 years, I'm in a different role. I'm doing something. So even in the military, like every 2 or 3 years, you're doing something different, something new, and that's continued on in my corporate career. And I'm actually in that window where I'm looking for something new to do, and I want to pivot into something else. I currently I work in credit. It's been awesome. It was like a continuation of business school,
Mm.
but I may want to shift into something else here soon. Within the next probably 3 to 6 months,
Yeah.
I'll be doing something different, something new, something I haven't done before.
The thing about Rice is you can always come back to Rice and you've got a whole network of folks. And I mean, you could always teach, and you could teach. I mean, you could do anything you wanted to, DeRae. Come on.
We'll see.
Anything you want. So last question, words of wisdom. Can you give me some of your words of wisdom to share with our listeners?
I think the thread for me, and I took it from Jamie Dimon's book.
It's a good book.
It really is. Right. He says something to the effect, it's better to do 10 things and get 8 of them right than do 5 and get them all right.
Huh.
So I'm leaving that wisdom. I really love that. I didn't want to be in the military for 20 years. I wanted to do the thing, go to the mountaintop, take a look around, move on to something else.
Move on to the next mountaintop.
Exactly. I see that peak over there. I wonder what's up there. Right. My curiosity leads the way.
Love that.
Just like business school, just like I want to see what's going on back here. What happens in these halls?
And you found out, didn't you? And it wasn't what you were expecting, I bet.
It was so much more.
Yeah.
It was so much more than what I was expecting. And, I think folks, if they do have the opportunity to go to business school, go to the best business school that you can go to, the one where, you feel like you'll grow there. Those are the ones where you're a little nervous, a little anxious being around those folks, because you're on the other side, just like the Depression in '08, like on the other side, you're going to be so much better. You have to stretch
Yourself and never stop fighting for what you want.
Yes. And that's the hard part, right? Knowing what you want.
Well, it's a work in progress, I think, for all of us. And it's usually the most unexpected things that you would never guess.
Yes, right. You kind of find the thing that you like. I didn't actually know I wanted this. Actually, I really like this. This is really cool.
And then you can't imagine what your life was like without it.
Yeah. Why didn't I do this earlier?
Well, still lots of wonderful future ahead for you. And I can't wait to see what you do next. And it's really been a pleasure to talk with you. And thank you for taking time out of your day to share your story with us today.
Thank you all for reaching out. This was so much fun. We'll have to do it again soon.
Thanks for listening. This has been I'll Have You Know, a production of Rice Business. You can find more information about our guests, hosts, and announcements on our website, business.rice.edu. Please subscribe and leave a rating wherever you find your favorite podcasts. We'd love to hear what you think. The hosts of I'll Have You Know are myself, Maya Pomroy, and Scott Gale.